Hannah thought marrying a tech mogul would be the start of a fairy tale, but she quickly finds herself trapped in a web of deception and betrayal because of Nathan's seductive ex-wife, who is determined to rip their marriage apart, and she'll stop at nothing to do it. The grand ballroom of the Anderson estate gleamed with extravagance as hundreds of guests filled the room, each dressed in their finest. The chandeliers above sparkled like a cascade of diamonds, reflecting off the polished marble floors. A string quartet played softly in the background, their delicate notes barely audible over the hum of laughter and polite conversation. It was a celebration of wealth and status, of everything that represented Nathan Anderson's world. Nathan stood at the center of it all, a tall and confident figure, greeting guests with the poise and ease of someone accustomed to being admired. He was the CEO of a tech company that had revolutionized the industry, his fortune vast enough to host an event this grand without a second thought. But beneath his cool demeanor, Nathan's thoughts drifted to the woman standing across the room. Hannah, his bride. She was beautiful, radiant in her simple yet elegant white gown, standing out even among the sea of designer dresses. Her dark hair cascaded in soft waves down her back, and her warm, brown eyes darted nervously from one guest to another. She smiled, but there was an unease in her expression. This world was foreign to her, too polished, too distant. Born and raised in a small, rural town, Hannah had known nothing of luxury or privilege. She had worked her way through life, determined to rise above the hardships that had defined her early years. The only daughter of a factory worker and a housekeeper, she had fought tooth and nail to get an education, to escape the cycle of poverty that seemed destined for her. It was her integrity, her strength, and her unwavering determination that had first captured Nathan's heart. But now, standing here among the elite of society, Hannah felt out of place. As guests approached, offering their rehearsed congratulations, she noticed the faint judgment in their eyes. They saw her as an outsider, someone not worthy of their world, someone who didn't belong. And it stung. She had imagined her wedding day as a moment of joy and celebration, but today, the weight of these expectations crushed her. As Hannah sipped from her champagne glass, her eyes caught sight of a woman who seemed to move with more grace and confidence than any other guest. Olivia, Nathan's ex-wife. She stood near the bar, watching the bride with a cold, calculating smile. Olivia had been the perfect wife for Nathan, or so everyone had believed. She was elegant, poised, and came from one of the wealthiest families in the city. But beneath her polished exterior was a woman capable of great manipulation. Their marriage had ended quietly, no public scandal, just a statement about irreconcilable differences. But Olivia had never truly accepted that Nathan had moved on, and as she watched him now with his new bride, her mind churned with resentment and plans of revenge. Nathan approached Hannah, gently taking her hand, and together they made their way to the head table for the reception. The night was filled with speeches, toasts, and endless waves of well-wishers. Yet, Olivia's presence seemed to linger in the background like a dark cloud. As the evening wore on, Nathan excused himself briefly, leaving Hannah alone at the table. Moments later, Olivia seized the opportunity. Gliding across the room with a grace that could only come from years of practice, she stopped beside Hannah, her eyes glinting with something unspoken. "Congratulations," Olivia said, her voice smooth and deliberate. "You must feel very lucky." Hannah forced a smile. "Thank you." Olivia leaned in slightly, her voice dropping to a whisper. "But luck only takes you so far in this world. Nathan, he's a man who needs understanding, someone who knows him in ways you never will." Hannah's heart pounded as Olivia's words sank in. "Excuse me," she managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. Olivia straightened, a small, satisfied smile playing on her lips. "You'll see. Soon enough." With that, Olivia turned and disappeared into the crowd, leaving Hannah alone, her mind reeling. The doubts Olivia had planted took root instantly. Was she right? Could Hannah ever truly understand Nathan's world? The world she had fought so hard to enter now felt like a prison, its golden gates closing in on her. As Nathan returned to the table, beaming and unaware of the storm brewing inside his new wife, Hannah's smile faltered. She looked at him, wondering if Olivia was right, wondering if their love could survive in a world where she felt so out of place. The night continued, but for Hannah, the joy of her wedding day had been tainted, replaced with a growing sense of dread. This was just the beginning. Hannah stood by the large bay windows of their new home, watching the city lights twinkle in the distance. The view was stunning, but it did little to calm the unease settling in her chest. She wrapped her arms around herself, trying to shake off the feeling that had lingered ever since her wedding day. Olivia's cryptic words haunted her. Nathan needs someone who understands him in ways you never will. The seed of doubt Olivia had planted was starting to take root, growing each day. It wasn't just Olivia's words, though. Since the wedding, Nathan had become increasingly distracted. He spent long hours at work, throwing himself into projects and meetings, leaving Hannah alone in this vast, opulent house that felt more like a museum than a home. The distance between them was growing, and Hannah couldn't shake the feeling that she was losing him. Nathan, on the other hand, seemed blissfully unaware of her turmoil. At the same time, Olivia was making herself known. What should have been a clean break after the divorce turned into constant interruptions. At first, Olivia's presence was subtle, an email here, a business meeting there. But soon, Nathan was frequently being pulled away to discuss various business matters with her, matters that, in Hannah's eyes, felt suspiciously unimportant. One evening, Nathan came home late, his tie loosened and his expression tired. Hannah waited for him in the kitchen, a glass of wine untouched on the counter. "Busy day?" she asked, trying to sound casual, though her heart raced. Nathan gave a short nod, barely looking at her as he reached for a bottle of water. "Yeah, sorry I'm late. Olivia and I had to finalize the investor pitch. It took longer than expected." Olivia again, Hannah thought bitterly. It felt like that name was haunting every corner of their lives. Do you really need to be working so closely with her? Can't someone else handle those meetings? Nathan paused, looking at her for the first time that night. "She's still part of the company, Hannah. We built a lot of it together. It's complicated, but it's just business. You know that." "I know," she said softly, trying to suppress the frustration rising within her. But it was becoming harder to believe him. Olivia, meanwhile, was playing her cards with masterful precision. Every interaction with Nathan was carefully calculated. She would reminisce about their shared past, casually dropping hints of their time together, the successes they had built side by side. And though Nathan didn't seem to notice, these moments planted small, lingering memories that clouded his thoughts. He didn't long for the past with Olivia. He was certain of that. But her presence had a way of reminding him of the life he once had, a life that felt simpler, more in control. Olivia had another tactic too, Hannah. While she knew she had to tread carefully, Olivia was no stranger to manipulation. She arranged a coincidental run-in with Hannah at one of Nathan's corporate events, an opportunity to sow more seeds of doubt. "Hello, Hannah," Olivia said, her voice dripping with false sweetness as she approached her at the gala. Hannah stiffened immediately, but Olivia's smile remained perfectly poised. "I'm surprised to see you here. You must be getting used to Nathan's world by now." Hannah gave a tight smile, unsure how to respond. Before she could say anything, Olivia continued. "I mean, I'm sure it's all very new for you, coming from such a different background. This kind of lifestyle," she gestured around to the opulent surroundings, "isn't exactly easy to adjust to, but I'm sure you'll manage. Eventually." Hannah felt a sting at Olivia's words. She knew what Olivia was doing, but that didn't make it hurt any less. Every look, every word, was designed to remind her that she didn't belong. "I don't need to adjust to anything," Hannah said quietly but firmly, refusing to give Olivia the satisfaction of seeing her shaken. Olivia's smile widened, as if she'd expected that exact response. "Of course not. But just remember, Nathan thrives in this world. It's where he's most comfortable, and he needs someone who understands that. Someone who can be by his side without hesitation. I mean, what's marriage without that kind of deep understanding?" With a final, knowing glance, Olivia walked away, leaving Hannah standing there, her confidence crumbling. As the night wore on, she found herself avoiding Nathan's gaze, haunted by Olivia's words. Was she right? Would Nathan ever be happy with someone like her? As weeks passed, the tension between Hannah and Nathan grew. Hannah's insecurities deepened, fueled by Olivia's subtle manipulations and the whispers at social events. People in Nathan's world were not cruel to her face, but the hushed voices, the questioning glances, and the backhanded compliments did their damage. Hannah overheard more than one guest at a party mutter, "She's sweet, but Nathan could have done better." Despite all her strength and determination, Hannah couldn't escape the feeling that she was an outsider in her own life. Nathan, always preoccupied with work, seemed oblivious to the turmoil she was going through. When he was home, he was distant, buried in his phone, his laptop, or distracted by yet another message from Olivia. One evening, after yet another long day alone, Hannah sat on the edge of their bed, her hands shaking as she typed out a message to Megan, her best friend. Megan had always been her rock, the one person who truly understood her. Without hesitation, Megan called her back immediately, concern evident in her voice. "Hannah, what's going on? You don't sound like yourself." Hannah took a deep breath, her voice trembling. "It's Olivia. She's always around, always pulling Nathan away. And I can't shake this feeling that I'll never fit in, that Nathan's world isn't for me. I don't know if I can keep doing this." Megan's voice was firm. "Listen to me, Hannah. You're stronger than you think. Olivia is playing mind games, and you can't let her win. But you need to talk to Nathan. He loves you. But if you don't speak up, he won't know how much this is affecting you." Hannah wiped away a tear that had slipped down her cheek. "What if it's not enough, Megan? What if I'm not enough?" "Hannah, you are more than enough. Don't let Olivia or anyone else make you doubt that." Hannah hung up, feeling a small flicker of resolve. But as the bedroom door creaked open and Nathan stepped in, exhausted and distracted once again, that flicker wavered. He barely noticed her tear-streaked face as he kissed her on the forehead and muttered something about a long day. The cracks in their marriage were growing, and if Nathan didn't see them soon, it might be too late. Hannah sat at the kitchen table, the morning light streaming in through the tall windows, casting soft shadows on the untouched breakfast in front of her. She stared blankly at her phone, waiting for a message, a call, anything from Nathan. He had left on a business trip with Olivia 2 days ago, something she had tried to ignore, tried to convince herself was purely professional. But the knot in her stomach told her otherwise. Nathan had assured her it was necessary, just another meeting with investors, nothing more. But Olivia's smirk the night before he left, when they crossed paths at a dinner party, had said otherwise. It was the same condescending, knowing look that haunted Hannah ever since the wedding day. She hadn't wanted to cause a scene. She hadn't wanted to seem insecure, or worse, jealous. So she had said nothing when Nathan told her about the trip. But now, as she scrolled through social media absent-mindedly, her thumb stopped cold. There it was. A photo. Nathan and Olivia, side by side, at a restaurant in another city, laughing at something private. It wasn't anything explicitly damning, just two people sharing a moment. But to Hannah, it felt like a betrayal. It was more than just a business trip now. It was personal. The image spoke volumes. Olivia, as always, was perfectly composed, her hand resting casually on Nathan's arm. Nathan didn't seem uncomfortable. If anything, he seemed at ease, as though this was just like old times. Hannah's heart pounded in her chest. Why didn't he tell me? The question echoed in her mind, feeding her fear, her anger. Why didn't he call? Without thinking, she forwarded the picture to her best friend, Megan. The response came quickly. "Megan, oh my God. What the hell is going on, Hannah? You need to talk to him. This is not okay." "Hannah, I don't even know what to say. Am I overreacting?" "Megan, no, you're not. I told you Olivia was trouble. You need to confront Nathan, now. Don't let her manipulate him like this." Hannah dropped the phone onto the table, her head spinning. Megan was right. This was Olivia's game, and Nathan, oblivious as he was falling right into her trap. Hannah needed to do something. That night, Hannah paced the living room, waiting for Nathan to call. The hours dragged on, and with each passing minute, her anger grew. Finally, around midnight, the front door creaked open. Nathan stepped inside, his expression tired but cheerful. "Hey," he said, tossing his coat onto the couch as if nothing was wrong. "Sorry, I didn't call earlier. The meetings were back to back." Hannah didn't respond immediately. She just stared at him, the picture of him and Olivia still fresh in her mind. "Nathan," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I saw a picture of you with Olivia today." Nathan frowned, confused. "What picture?" "At a restaurant, looking a little too comfortable," Hannah said, her voice trembling now, the emotions she'd been holding back starting to spill out. "Why didn't you tell me about that dinner?" Nathan sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It wasn't a big deal, Hannah. It was a last-minute thing. The investors wanted to go out after the meeting, and Olivia was there too. It's just business, that's all." "Business?" Hannah's voice sharpened. "Because it didn't look like business, Nathan. It looked like you were with her, like you were enjoying her company." Nathan's eyes widened in disbelief. "What are you saying? That I'm, what, cheating on you?" "I don't know." Hannah's voice cracked, and the words came tumbling out. "You've been so distant lately, and you spend all this time with her, and I feel like you're slipping away from me. I don't know what to think anymore." Nathan took a step forward, his face softening. "Hannah, no. I would never do that to you. I'm sorry if it looks bad, but I promise you, there's nothing going on. Olivia, she's just part of the business. But she's not just business, is she? She's your ex-wife, and she's doing everything she can to remind me that I'll never be what she was for you." Hannah's voice was thick with hurt, the months of insecurity finally bubbling to the surface. "She's trying to take you away from me." Nathan's expression shifted, his brows knitting together. "That's not true. Olivia has moved on. This is in your head, Hannah." "In my head?" The words stung, and for a moment, Hannah felt a rush of anger. "You think I'm imagining all of this?" Nathan hesitated. "I just think maybe you're overthinking it. Olivia's not a threat. You're my wife now." "That's not how it feels," Hannah whispered, her voice small. "You don't see it, Nathan. You don't see how she's trying to get between us." Nathan stepped forward, taking her hands gently in his. "I'm sorry. I've been focused on work, and I didn't mean to make you feel this way. But there's nothing going on with Olivia, I swear. I love you, Hannah." But as Nathan pulled her into his arms, Hannah couldn't shake the doubt gnawing at her insides. His words were reassuring, but the distance between them felt like a chasm. She wanted to believe him, needed to believe him. Yet, Olivia's presence loomed like a shadow over their marriage, and Nathan, whether he realized it or not, was still too close to her. Over the next few days, Hannah tried to push past her insecurities, to focus on her marriage. But the image of Nathan and Olivia lingered in her mind like an open wound. She decided to confide in Megan once more. They met for coffee, and as soon as Hannah sat down, Megan knew something was wrong. "Tell me everything," Megan urged, her eyes filled with concern. Hannah sighed. "I confronted Nathan, and he swears there's nothing going on with Olivia, that it's all just business." "And do you believe him?" Megan asked. "I don't know," Hannah admitted. "He seems sincere, but Olivia, she's everywhere. It's like she's always there, waiting for me to slip up, waiting for him to realize he made a mistake marrying me." Megan's expression darkened. "Hannah, Olivia is dangerous. She's not just trying to come between you two. She's succeeding. You need to keep your guard up." Hannah nodded, but deep down, she felt helpless. How could she compete with someone like Olivia? Someone who knew Nathan's world inside and out? Someone who understood him in ways Hannah never would? That evening, as Nathan worked late in his office, Hannah wandered the house, trying to clear her mind. But as she passed by his study, she overheard the faint sound of his voice. Curiosity got the better of her, and she stopped outside the door, listening. "Yeah, I know, it's been tough," Nathan was saying. "Things are just complicated right now." Hannah's heart raced. Who was he talking to? She inched closer, holding her breath. "Olivia. No, I didn't tell her about that dinner. I know, I just didn't want her to worry." Hannah's blood turned cold. He's still talking to her. He didn't even tell her the whole truth. The realization hit her like a ton of bricks. Nathan was lying to her. And no matter how much he reassured her, it was clear. Olivia was still very much a part of his life. Hannah could barely breathe as she stepped away from the study door, her mind spinning. Nathan had lied. He had told Olivia about their private conversation, and worse, he had kept things from her. Things that involved Olivia. The walls around her seemed to close in as the realization settled in her chest like a heavy stone. She wasn't being paranoid. Olivia was still in his life in ways he hadn't admitted, and he wasn't being honest with her. Tears welled up in Hannah's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She wasn't going to break. Not here. Not like this. She had fought too hard to build a life with Nathan, to climb out of the world she had come from. She had survived harder things. She could survive this, but deep down, she knew that something fundamental had changed between them. A crack had become a chasm. As she lay awake that night, her thoughts drifted back to her past. It was a past she rarely spoke about, a past she had buried deep, even from Nathan. He knew bits and pieces, of course, the hard childhood, the struggle to escape poverty. But there was one part of her life she had never told him about, not out of shame, but out of fear that it would change how he saw her. And now, she wondered if keeping that secret had been a mistake. The next morning, Hannah rose early, her mind still heavy with the events of the night before. Nathan had left for work without much more than a quick kiss on her cheek, completely unaware of the storm brewing inside her. But that storm was about to get worse. Hannah's phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. She picked it up, expecting a message from Megan, but instead, her eyes widened in shock. It was a news alert, and the headline sent a jolt of terror through her veins. Tech CEO's wife's shocking family scandal revealed. With shaking hands, Hannah clicked on the article, her heart racing as she read the details. Her past, her darkest, most painful secret, had been exposed to the world. Her father. The article laid it all out in lurid detail. The story of how her father had been imprisoned for fraud when she was just a child, how he had swindled families out of their life savings, and how Hannah had spent years distancing herself from the man who had betrayed her family. It was something she had never wanted to be public, something she had fought to leave behind. But now, every detail was out in the open for the world to see. Hannah felt her knees go weak, and she sank into a chair, the phone still clutched in her hand. This wasn't just a personal attack. This was meant to humiliate her, to destroy her, and she knew exactly who was behind it. Olivia. Nathan came home earlier than usual that evening, his face pale and his expression strained. Hannah was sitting on the couch, staring blankly at the news segment playing on TV. The story of her father's crimes had spread like wildfire, becoming the gossip of the day in the very circles Nathan thrived in. Nathan stopped in front of her, his voice low and uncertain. "Hannah, I didn't know." "Of course you didn't know," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I didn't tell you. I didn't think it mattered anymore." Nathan sat down next to her, reaching for her hand, but she pulled away, her eyes filled with a pain that was far deeper than the betrayal she had felt the night before. "Do you understand what this is going to do to us?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Your world, the people you work with, they'll never see me the same way again." Nathan ran a hand through his hair, his frustration evident. "It doesn't matter what they think. It doesn't matter to me." "But it does, Nathan." Hannah shot back, her voice rising. "You've built your entire life around these people. Do you really think they'll just forget about this? About my father? They'll see me as a stain on your reputation." Nathan hesitated, and that hesitation was all it took for Hannah to feel the crushing weight of his doubt. He wasn't defending her. He wasn't fighting for her. He was sitting there, unsure, and that uncertainty felt like the ultimate betrayal. Hannah stood up, her hands shaking. "Olivia did this," she said, her voice firm with newfound clarity. "I don't know how, but I know she did." Nathan's eyes widened in shock. "Olivia? What makes you think?" "She's been trying to tear us apart from the start. She told me I didn't belong in your world. She's been manipulating you, and now she's gone after me, publicly." Hannah's voice cracked. "Can't you see it?" Nathan stared at her, struggling to process what she was saying. "I'll talk to her. I'll figure out what's going on." But that wasn't the answer Hannah wanted. She needed him to stand by her, to fight for their marriage, to stop treating Olivia like she was still some part of his life. But instead, Nathan sounded like he was going to smooth things over, as if Olivia was still someone to be reasoned with, not someone who had just attacked his wife in the most vicious way possible. Hannah shook her head, tears welling up in her eyes. It's too late for that, Nathan. Don't you see? She's trying to destroy us. Nathan stood, reaching for her again. But this time Hannah stepped back. I need some time to think, she said, her voice barely a whisper. Nathan's face fell, and he nodded slowly. Okay, but I'm here, Hannah. I love you. Hannah said nothing as Nathan left the room, her mind a whirlwind of emotions. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that their love was enough to get them through this. But right now, it didn't feel like enough. Not with Olivia's shadow looming so large over their lives. The next day, Hannah received an unexpected visitor. It was Arthur Anderson, Nathan's father. Arthur had always been somewhat distant, the patriarch of the Anderson family who kept his opinions mostly to himself. But today, there was a sense of urgency in his presence as he sat down across from Hannah in the Anderson mansion's sunroom. Hannah, he began, his voice calm but serious. I know what's been happening, and I'm not here to lecture you or dig into your past. I don't care about that, but I do care about my son, and I care about you. Hannah blinked, surprised by his directness. There's something you need to know about Olivia, Arthur continued, his eyes narrowing. She's not as invincible as she pretends to be. What do you mean? Hannah asked, leaning forward. Arthur leaned in as well, lowering his voice. Olivia has a past of her own, one she's been very careful to keep buried. While she was still married to Nathan, she had an affair with Mason Hart. Hannah's heart skipped a beat. Mason Hart was one of Nathan's biggest business rivals, a man known for his ruthlessness in the corporate world. Arthur's gaze hardened. That affair nearly destroyed Nathan's company. It almost ruined everything he'd worked for. But Olivia managed to cover it up, made sure it never got out. If this comes to light, it could destroy her credibility, her reputation. Hannah's mind raced, trying to piece together what this meant. Why are you telling me this? Because Olivia has been playing a dangerous game, and it's time someone put an end to it, Arthur said firmly. If she's going to attack you, we need to be prepared to fight back. Hannah stared at him, her thoughts swirling. This was the opening she needed, the weapon she never thought she'd have. But as the reality of what Arthur was suggesting settled in, she realized just how far things had escalated. This wasn't just about her marriage anymore. It was about survival. But was she ready to play this game at Olivia's level? Hannah stared at Arthur, her heart racing. Olivia had an affair with Mason Hart? The revelation crashed through her mind like a wave, pulling her in multiple directions at once. For months, Olivia had been chipping away at her marriage, using every tool she had to make Hannah feel unworthy, to paint her as an outsider in Nathan's life. But now, for the first time, Hannah had something real, something powerful, to use against her. She wasn't defenseless anymore. Does Nathan know? She finally asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Arthur shook his head. No, he never found out. Olivia made sure of that. She played her cards well, and Mason has just as much to lose if the truth ever gets out. That's why they've kept it buried all these years. Hannah's thoughts whirled as she tried to process the weight of what Arthur had just told her. Nathan had been so blind to Olivia's manipulations, so unwilling to see how deeply she had been undermining their marriage. And now, Hannah was holding the very secret that could break Olivia's hold on their lives once and for all. But what if I use this and it blows up in my face? Hannah asked, doubt creeping into her voice. What if it backfires? Arthur's gaze was steady, unflinching. You don't need to go public with this unless it becomes necessary. Use it as leverage. Olivia will do anything to protect her image. If she knows that you're aware of her affair, she'll be forced to back down. She's not invincible, Hannah. She's been using her power over Nathan and this world to intimidate you. But this changes everything. Hannah nodded, though her mind was still spinning. Arthur's confidence in her felt strange, almost overwhelming. For the first time since marrying Nathan, she felt like someone in his family truly believed in her, trusted her. And while she knew this information gave her the upper hand, a small part of her still wondered how Nathan would react when he found out about all of this. About Olivia, about the lengths his father was willing to go to protect her. As Arthur stood to leave, he placed a hand gently on her shoulder. I know this isn't easy, but you're stronger than you realize, Hannah. Don't let Olivia tear you apart. Not anymore. That night, Hannah lay in bed, staring up at the ceiling, her mind heavy with the burden of what she now knew. Nathan was asleep beside her, his breathing steady, completely unaware of the storm that had been brewing just beneath the surface of their lives. She wanted to reach out to him, to tell him everything, but the words caught in her throat. This wasn't just about protecting their marriage anymore. This was about power, about fighting back. The next morning, Hannah woke early, her resolve hardening. She wasn't going to wait for Olivia's next move. She was going to confront her head-on. Olivia sat in her office, the large windows behind her flooding the room with light as she scrolled through her emails. Her perfectly manicured fingers moved swiftly over the keyboard. Her mind focused on the next business deal she was planning. But her concentration shattered when her assistant knocked lightly on the door. Mrs. Anderson, the assistant said cautiously, Hannah's here to see you. Olivia's eyes narrowed slightly, but she masked her surprise with a cool smile. Send her in. As Hannah entered the room, her heart pounded in her chest, but her face betrayed nothing. Olivia rose from her chair, her expression one of calculated politeness, but the glint in her eyes told Hannah that she was ready for whatever came next. Well, this is unexpected, Olivia said, her voice dripping with mock surprise. What brings you here? Hannah didn't waste any time. She stepped forward, her eyes locked on Olivia's. I know about Mason. For a brief moment, Olivia's mask slipped. Her smile faltered, and her eyes widened ever so slightly before she regained control. But Hannah saw it, the crack in her armor. I have no idea what you're talking about, Olivia said smoothly, though her voice had lost some of its edge. Hannah stepped closer, her confidence growing. Don't play games with me, Olivia. I know about the affair. I know what you did to Nathan's company, how you nearly destroyed it with Mason's help. If this gets out, everything you've worked to protect will come crashing down. Your reputation, your status, everything. Olivia's face hardened, her eyes flashing with anger. You think you can threaten me with that? You have no idea what you're getting into. Hannah didn't flinch. I'm not here to threaten you. I'm giving you a chance to back off, to stop trying to sabotage my marriage, to stop trying to manipulate Nathan. I won't go public with this unless you force me to. But I'm done playing your games. For a moment, there was silence. Olivia stared at her, the weight of the confrontation hanging heavily between them. But then, slowly, Olivia's lips curled into a cold smile. Well, she said softly. It seems you've grown a backbone after all. I have to admit, I didn't expect this from you. Hannah didn't respond, waiting for Olivia's next move. After a long pause, Olivia sighed and leaned back against her desk. Fine. You want me to back off? Consider it done. I have no interest in dragging this out any longer than necessary. But don't think for a second that I'm doing this because of your little secret. Nathan's world is cutthroat, Hannah. You're playing in the big leagues now, and this is just the beginning. I'll stay out of your marriage, for now. But remember, in this world, there's always another game to be played. Hannah stared at her, her resolve unwavering. She wasn't naive enough to believe that Olivia would just disappear, but for now, she had what she needed. Olivia had backed down, and that was a victory in itself. Over the next few days, things began to shift. Olivia's presence in Nathan's life became noticeably less frequent. The subtle manipulations, the constant business meetings, all of it started to fade. Nathan seemed to notice the change as well, though he couldn't quite put his finger on it. He was more present at home, more focused on their relationship. One evening, as they sat together on the couch, Nathan turned to her, his eyes filled with sincerity. I'm sorry for everything, Hannah. I've been so wrapped up in work, in trying to keep everything afloat, that I didn't see what was happening right in front of me. I love you, and I promise I'm going to do better. Hannah smiled softly, her heart swelling with hope. I love you too, she said, her voice steady. But deep down, she knew that things were still fragile. They had made it through this storm, but Olivia's warning lingered in her mind. There's always another game to be played. Weeks passed, and just as Hannah began to feel like the worst was behind her, a letter arrived. It was addressed to her in careful, deliberate handwriting. Inside was a single sheet of paper, and the words sent a chill down her spine. "You think you've won, but the game isn't over yet. Watch your back." There was no signature, but Hannah knew exactly who it was from. Olivia wasn't done with her, not by a long shot. And now, Hannah had to decide how far she was willing to go to protect her marriage and herself from whatever came next. Hannah sat frozen on the edge of the bed, the ominous letter still in her trembling hands. The weight of Olivia's threat pressed down on her, reminding her that the battle was far from over. Olivia had backed off for a time, but this letter was proof that she wasn't going to surrender easily. The game had escalated, and Hannah realized she was now a key player whether she liked it or not. The house felt eerily quiet that evening as she waited for Nathan to come home. She needed to tell him about the letter, about everything. The lies, the secrets, both hers and Olivia's, had to come out. If they were going to survive this, Nathan needed to know the truth. When Nathan finally walked through the door, his tired smile faded as soon as he saw the look on her face. "Hannah, what's wrong?" She stood slowly, holding the letter out to him. "We need to talk." Nathan's brow furrowed as he took the letter, reading the short message. His expression shifted from confusion to anger as the realization hit him. "Olivia." Hannah nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "She's not done with us." Nathan crumpled the letter in his hand, his jaw clenched. "I can't believe this. I thought she had finally let go." "There's something else," Hannah said, taking a deep breath. "There's something I haven't told you. Something important." Nathan looked at her, a mix of concern and curiosity in his eyes. "What is it?" Hannah swallowed hard, knowing that what she was about to say could change everything. "Olivia didn't just sabotage us. She's been hiding something about her past with Mason Hart." Nathan's eyes widened, his voice sharp with disbelief. "Mason Hart? What does he have to do with this?" Hannah sat down, trying to steady herself. "Olivia had an affair with Mason while you were still married. And it wasn't just personal. She helped him make moves against your company. They were working together behind your back, trying to take you down." Nathan's face paled as the truth settled in. How do you know this?" "Your father," Hannah said softly. "Arthur told me everything. He knew about the affair, about what Olivia did, but he kept it quiet to protect you. He gave me this information because he knew it could help stop her." For a long moment, Nathan didn't speak. He stared down at the crumpled letter in his hand, the betrayal hitting him like a tidal wave. "She almost destroyed me, and I didn't even see it." Hannah reached for his hand, her voice gentle but firm. "Nathan, I've been trying to fight this battle on my own, but we need to face this together. Olivia isn't just going to go away. She's threatening us, and if we don't do something, she'll keep coming for us." Nathan's eyes locked onto hers, and she could see the storm of emotions brewing inside him. Anger, betrayal, and guilt. "I should have seen this coming. I let her get too close again. I let her manipulate me." "You didn't know," Hannah said, squeezing his hand. "But now we do, and we can't let her control our lives anymore." Nathan nodded slowly, his resolve hardening. "You're right. It's time to end this." The next day, Nathan called for a meeting, a private one. He had invited Olivia, along with Arthur, to the Anderson estate. The house was eerily quiet as Hannah stood beside Nathan in the spacious living room, waiting for what was to come. Olivia arrived, as expected, dressed impeccably in a designer outfit that screamed confidence. She walked in with a cool, smug smile, her eyes briefly meeting Hannah's before settling on Nathan. "Nathan," she said smoothly, "I wasn't expecting a meeting. What's this about?" Nathan's face was unreadable as he gestured for her to sit. "It's time we had a conversation about the past, Olivia." Olivia's smile faltered just slightly, but she maintained her composure. "The past? What exactly are you talking about?" Arthur stepped forward then, his expression grim. "We know about Mason, Olivia. We know everything." Olivia's eyes flashed with something, panic, fear, but it was gone as quickly as it appeared. She leaned back in her chair, her smile never fully fading. You don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, but we do," Arthur said, his voice cold. "You tried to destroy Nathan's company while pretending to support him. You had an affair with Mason Hart and used him to attack us from the inside. Do you really think you could keep that secret forever?" Olivia's smile wavered, but she quickly recovered. "Do you really think anyone will believe that? You have no proof." Nathan stepped forward, his voice steady but filled with anger. "I trusted you, Olivia. I let you back into my life, into my business. And all this time, you've been trying to destroy everything I've built." Olivia's confidence began to crack. She stood up abruptly, her cool demeanor slipping. "You don't know what you're talking about, Nathan. You're letting her." She shot a venomous glance at Hannah. "Fill your head with lies." Hannah stepped forward then, her voice calm but firm. "These aren't lies, Olivia. We know the truth, and we're done letting you manipulate us." Olivia's eyes narrowed, her tone turning sharp. "You really think you can win, don't you? You think you can take me down with a few accusations?" Arthur's voice cut through the tension. "It's not just accusations, Olivia. If you don't back off, I'll make sure every dirty secret you've buried comes to light. Your affair with Mason, your role in nearly destroying Nathan's company, everything." Olivia's face paled. She looked from Nathan to Arthur, realizing for the first time that she was cornered. Her smirk was gone, replaced by a simmering rage. She stood there, visibly shaken, before finally speaking in a low, dangerous voice. "You haven't won. Not yet." With that, Olivia turned and walked out of the room, her heels clicking sharply against the marble floor. As the door closed behind her, the room fell into an uneasy silence. Nathan let out a long breath, his shoulders sagging as the weight of everything came crashing down. He turned to Hannah, his eyes filled with a mixture of relief and regret. "I'm so sorry," he said softly, "for everything." Hannah stepped forward, wrapping her arms around him. "We'll get through this," she whispered. Together. Days passed, and Olivia's presence began to fade from their lives. The legal battle never came, and slowly, the sense of normalcy returned. But the scars remained. Nathan and Hannah worked hard to rebuild their trust, to repair the damage that Olivia had inflicted on their marriage. One evening, as they sat together by the fireplace, Nathan took her hand in his voice filled with emotion. "I almost lost you because I was too blind to see what was happening. But I see it now. I see you, Hannah, and I'll never let anything come between us again." Hannah smiled, feeling the weight lift from her heart. "I love you, Nathan." "I love you too," he whispered, pulling her close. Outside, the night was calm and peaceful, the storm finally behind them. For the first time in what felt like forever, Hannah felt safe. The wedding that wasn't meant to be had survived the test, and though the scars would remain, they had found their way back to each other. And Olivia? She had been defeated, her threats silenced. But as Hannah and Nathan moved forward, they knew one thing for certain. They were stronger together, and no shadow from the past could tear them apart again. If you're hooked on high-stakes drama, jaw-dropping twists, and gripping tales of love, betrayal, and power, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Don't miss out on more thrilling stories. Subscribe now and join the ride.